Okay, good morning, councillors. We are here for the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee hearing for BB Wines. I'm going to start the procedures with asking for you to elect a chairman for the meeting.
Can I propose Councillor Bill Sohn?
Okay. Could I have a seconder on that?
I will second that.
Okay, so Councillor Bill, I'll pass over to you. You've been elected chairman this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this hearing. First of all, can I introduce members of the subcommittee? First of all, we have Councillor Chris Bowring, who is a member for Wokingham Without in the Borough of Wokingham, and also Ian Shenton, who is Councillor Ian Shenton, who is a member for Evandens Ward in Wokingham Borough, and myself, Bill Sohn, I'm a councillor and representative for Loddon Ward. Also in the meeting are various legal advisors and people from our licensing department, and I'm wondering if, just for the purpose of me understanding who's here, if we could just go around and ask people to introduce themselves. Can I start with Leo? Is he available?
Sir, yes. Good morning. My name is Leo Chiralambidis. I am the barrister representing BB Wines. Mr. Surendra Panchal is the licensing consultant that instructs me, and he is in his office with the premises license holder, so you may see both of them on camera if they are needed. I'm noticing there's a little bit of a feedback loop on my mic.
I will mute when I'm not speaking. I think that might be me. I've left my mic on, so I'll try to avoid that. Let me just go down and see. Amanda Ward. Do we have Amanda Ward?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Can you tell me your position?
I'm a lead licensing officer for licensing.
Thank you very much. Gary Clark.
Yes, good morning. Gary Clark, licensing officer from Thames Valley Police.
Thank you very much. Heather.
Yeah, Heather Parson, Trading Standards Officer for Public Protection Partnership.
Okay, thank you. Julia O'Brien.
Hello, Julia O'Brien, Principal Licensing Officer for Public Protection Partnership.
Okay, we also have Megan Summerfield.
Good morning, I'm Megan Summerfield. I'm the solicitor apprentice for legal, and I'm just here for training purposes, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. Yes. Neil Allen.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Neil Allen. I'm the legal advisor for the panel.
Okay. Surendra Panchal.
Yes, Chairman. I'm here for the license holder as a representative.
Thank you very much. Now, apart from Lucienne, who we've already heard from, Lucienne.
Sorry, I was just unmuting myself. My name is Lucienne Pauca, and I am from Democratic Services.
Thank you very much. Now, no doubt I've missed somebody, and if I have, I apologise, but if you wish to make yourself known, I would be delighted to hear from you.
Good morning, everybody. It's Kevin Thompson, Principal Trading Standards Officer with the Public Protection Partnership, and I'm the applicant in this matter.
Thank you very much. Karen, you have your hand raised. Oh.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to confirm, Karen Court's one of the licensing officers with the Public Protection Partnership.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going down the list and it's jumping around a bit, so I'm missing you. Sorry about that. You're welcome. Okay, I think I've covered everybody now. So let me just run through the procedure for this morning's hearing. First of all, as I say, welcome to you all. And we're going to be hearing a matter concerning the licence relating to B&B Wines 23 Broad Street, Wokingham. I'm going to ask the subcommittee if they have any interest to declare.
I do not.
You don't. Thank you very much. Thank you. I should point out at this stage that Councillor Shenton is here. He's not on camera because he's having problems with his computer, but I can assure you he hears everything and is able to join in the meeting.
I have no interest to declare, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Right. Can I ask the officers to confirm whether or not formal requirements in respect to the matter to be considered have been complied with? Is everybody happy that that is the case? No dissent, so we'll assume that's right. Right, okay, if I can just briefly outline the procedures for today, and that such must be relevant to the licensing objectives. I will just mention the 4 objectives of licensing, and that's prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. I will first of all ask the licensing officer to introduce the hearing report and update the subcommittee on any developments following the publication of the report whenever required. So that's the first stage. Then the subcommittee may ask the licensing representative for any clarification on any points. After that, the applicant and licence holder shall have the opportunity to put questions to the licensing team. The chairman will then invite the applicant to make any representations. Following that, the subcommittee may ask the applicant for clarifications on any points. The licence holder will have the opportunity to put questions to the applicant, and then the chairman will invite the licence holder to make any representations. The subcommittee may ask the licence holder for clarifications of any points. The applicant will have the opportunity to put questions to the licence holder. The chairman will then invite any responsible authorities or other persons who have made representations to speak. In order to facilitate effective hearings, other persons making similar representations will be asked to nominate a spokesman to present their representations. At the conclusion of the spokesman's representations, the chairman will ask other persons if they have any other points to raise. The subcommittee may ask responsible authorities or other persons questions and points of clarification. The applicant and licence holder shall have an opportunity to put questions to those who have made representations if permitted to do so by the subcommittee, or they may respond to comments made when summing up their case. An opportunity shall be given to all parties present to sum up their case, but not to add any new facts, in the same order as above. After hearing the applicant and all representations, the subcommittee will ask any further questions of any party that they may have. All parties in the subcommittee and support staff from Wokingham Borough Legal and Democratic Services team shall be asked to leave the hearing. Officers present do not take part in the decision making, but will provide legal and procedural advice and record the decision. The subcommittee shall determine the applicant's application. The decision will be notified in writing within 5 working days to all parties after the subcommittee has reached its decision. So to start with, I'll ask the licensing officer who's going to introduce the hearing report and update the subcommittee of any developments. So if I could ask our lead licensing officer to present the report, please.
Yeah, Chair, I'm sorry to intervene.
Yeah.
I think there's a preliminary issue that we need to resolve.
I will do that now.
Fine,
yeah.
Thank you.
So, just to say that as far as the previous cases that have been heard and decided, we understand that there were fixed penalty fines. And can I ask the trading standards whether these fines have been satisfied and paid?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's Kevin Thompson here. I think that should be a police matter. The fixed penalties were achieved by the officers on the last two occasions, so it may be that Gary Clark is able to update better than I can with regards to payment.
That wasn't quite clear. You broke up.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay now? Hopefully you can. The fixed penalty notices on the last two occasions were issued by Thames Valley Police. So I think hopefully Gary Clark, as a representative of Thames Valley Police, will be able to update us as to whether they've actually been paid now or otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Gary, are you able to do that?
Yeah, I'm certainly not been made aware that the payment is still outstanding. So I would have to say that, yes, they would have been paid by now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman, can I come in?
Yes.
I've just spoken to the client here and the payments have been made. Last two payments have already been paid. Just to clarify.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Okay, I'll come back to the licensing officer to introduce the hearing report. Karen.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. As I just said, my name is Karen Court. I'm one of the licensing officers working within the Public Protection Partnership covering Wokingham work. The panel is here this morning to hear and determine the application which has been made by Trading Standards for review of the premises licence. That is for BB Wines in Broad Street, Wokingham. This is an off-licence and convenience store situated in the middle of Wokingham town centre. For those of you who aren't familiar, we have also included photos, and that's included in the report. The premises licence, which is PR 0060, authorises the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises only between 8 AM and 11 PM Monday to Saturday, and between 10 AM and 10:30 PM on Sundays. Mr. Parmit Singh Kapoor, who is here today, he is the current licence holder and DPS. He holds both those roles and has done since 2014. And his personal licence is issued by Ealing Council. The Trading Standards underage sale history is detailed in their review application, so I will just briefly summarise what I've included in my report on pages 7 to 10. Sorry, are you all hearing me okay? Yeah, good. Okay. There was an underage sale failure on the 29th of April this year during an operation conducted by Licensing and Thames Valley Police. Following that, my colleague Gary Clark with Thames Valley Police and I actually did a follow-up visit to the premises on the 18th of June, spoke to staff member Sami Mia, and then later had a follow-up call with Mr. Kapoor to go through some points over the phone. Again, those are detailed on page 8 of the report. So we'd identify that there were some works to be done to improve procedures. Unfortunately, there was then another test purchase failure in a follow-up operation by Thames Valley Police and Trading Standards. That was on the 9th of July. Unfortunately, that was also failed. And again, the sale was made.
Sorry, can I interrupt?
Yes, sure, Chairman.
Sorry, can I just ask, am I the only one who's having difficulty during Karen?
I couldn't hear what you just said, Chairman.
Sir, I couldn't hear what you just said. I've been having some difficulties. I couldn't hear what you said. It seems to be the case that when everyone's mic is switched off and only one is on, it seems to be okay, but there is some difficulty hearing everyone for my part. Some difficulty hearing everyone.
Okay, can I ask then that anybody who's not speaking turns their microphone off, and perhaps also it might be as well at the same time perhaps to turn your camera off unless you're speaking. We can try that. Karen, would you like to try again?
Yeah, sure, Chairman. Would you like me to start again from the start? I was conscious that I felt that people perhaps weren't getting everything I was saying. I'm happy to start again from the start if that helps, or shall I carry on where we were?
Yeah, no, if you wouldn't mind starting from the beginning, because I lost a lot of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Would it actually help perhaps if I turn my camera off as well, Chairman? That might actually help with the audio. Let me see. Is that helping at all with the audio?
Yeah, try that and see how we go. Thank you.
Okay. Do please interrupt me if it's not clear, Chairman. Thank you. Okay, as I said, my name is Karen Court. I'm one of the licensing officers working in the Public Protection Partnership, working on Wokingham work. The purpose of today's hearing is for the panel to consider and determine the application for review, which has been brought by Trading Standards for the licence held by BB Wines at 23 Broad Street, Wokingham. This is an off-licence and convenience store situated in the middle of Wokingham town centre. And the licence authorises the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises only between 8 AM and 11 PM Monday to Saturday and between 10 AM and 10:30 PM on Sundays. Mr. Parmit Singh Kapoor, who is here today, he is the current licence holder and designated premises supervisor. He holds both roles and has done since 2014. His personal licence is issued by Ealing Council. I will let my colleagues in Trading Standards, primarily Kevin Thompson, go into a little bit more detail on the underage sale history in due course with the Chairman's permission. They will obviously wish to speak a little bit later. But to summarise, there was an underage sale failure on the 29th of April this year, when there was an underage sale operation conducted by Thames Valley Police and Trading Standards. Following that, there was a follow-up visit by Licensing and Thames Valley Police in June. That was myself and Gary Clark, when we met with Sammy Mia, the staff member who was on duty. And then subsequently, I had a phone conversation with Mr. Parmit Singh Kapoor to run through the issues we had identified, and a confirmation email was then sent. Those items are detailed on page 8. There were some issues. Basically, we asked for more age verification posters and other procedures just to be tightened up. Unfortunately, following that, on the 9th of July, there was another test purchase failure in another operation conducted by Thames Valley Police and Trading Standards. And again, the sale was made by the DPS himself, Mr. Parmit Singh Kapoor. Following that failure on the 9th of July, Trading Standards applied for review of the licence on the 27th of July. That application was processed as per a normal review application, and the grounds for review were given as the protection of children from harm regarding the sale of alcohol to individuals under 18 years of age. There have been a couple of amendments. On page 9, you will see there are a couple of date amendments which Kevin Thompson has requested, and I would ask that you please note those. We've then included responses that we received. Home Office Immigration responded, and we also had response from Thames Valley Police to support the application, and they are here now, and obviously they would like to speak in due course as well. As I said, I will ask Trading Standards to give you more detail on the Trading Standards and test purchasing history, so you have all the details in due course. We offered the applicant to submit any information in support of this. We've not received anything to date from either the applicant or their legal representative. The various options open to the panel in determining this application are set out on page 7 and 8. There are various options from modifying conditions on the licence, removing designated premises supervisor, through to a full revocation of the licence for you to consider. I think that summarises my report, which obviously you have in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Chairman. I hope that covers it, and I hope I didn't see any interruptions, so I hope you understood me and got all that a bit clearer this time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Yes, that was absolutely clear as far as I was concerned, and I think everybody else would have been quite happy with that. So thank you for that. Right, I'll ask members of our subcommittee whether there's any questions that they'd like to put to the licensing officer at this stage. So,
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Karen, could I ask why did the first incident result in a conviction in the magistrate's court, whereas the second and third ones resulted in a fixed penalty notice? Why were different procedures followed for those three?
Thank you, Councillor Bowring. To answer the question, I believe there was a slightly different procedure followed. There was a previous history, which again, I believe Kevin Thompson will be able to enlighten on, and that resulted in magistrates. The recent operations were led by Thames Valley Police, with trading standards working alongside. And as a result of those, the fixed penalty notices were issued by Thames Valley Police. I don't know, Kevin Thompson may wish to add to that comment at this point.
Are you there, Kevin? And if you have anything to add?
Yes, just as Karen has said, Chairman, the two latest best practice operations in April and July of this year were led by Thames Valley Police. They had actually wished to carry out test purchase operations in the Wokingham area. They had created the list of shops to go to, and they were leading the whole operation. So it was a matter for them as to and their officers as to what action they considered appropriate on those two occasions. And the officers believed that the fixed penalty notice was the appropriate action to take on both of those occasions. We were merely in support of the police on those two occasions. Previously, that led to the prosecution and the hearing at Reading Magistrates. That was an operation that I wasn't involved with, excuse me, but that was led by the trading standards, and therefore the outcome was determined by ourselves.
Thank you very much.
To come back on that, it seems a bit odd to me that having got to the magistrate's court, that the subsequent ones should be treated in what appears to be as if they were of less importance. Fixed penalty notice doesn't seem to me quite as serious a matter as conviction in the magistrate's court.
Do you wish to come back, Karen, or?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor Bowring. Yes, it's as Kevin Thompson has said, this was a Thames Valley Police led operation, and a slightly different approach was taken. I don't know if perhaps Gary Clark of Thames Valley Police might have anything to add to that at all, to clarify.
Do you wish to come in, Gary?
Yeah, no, my understanding is it's one of those, it's an either or situation, and it really depends who's leading the operation. So, I mean, each individual event will carry the same level of, enforcement. So, yes, if we lead on the event, and officers will issue a fixed penalty notice. If the lead is from trading standards, then they will prosecute through the magistrate's court.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the panel at this stage? No? Okay, well, I will now ask the applicant and licence holder if he has any questions to put to the licensing team or his representatives.
So yes, thank you very much. I'd just like to point out that I am having a little bit of issue still with noise, particularly when we're sort of changing things over. So I have messaged my client, and we're just going to keep a watch on it. And if it becomes untenable, we will be asking for an adjournment and an in-person hearing. I don't even know if you're doing in-person hearings yet, but hopefully that won't happen. But I'm keeping a watch on it. Secondly, in respect of the matter in the Reading Magistrates Court, I'm just taking some instructions on that. I helpfully have a WhatsApp group on that. And in terms of questions, it's my understanding that there have been previous tests done by Trading Standards and the police in 2020, in 2019, possibly in 2018, certainly in 2017. And on all those occasions during those years, the premises passed its test purchases. So could the licensing team, in order to provide you and your colleagues with a fuller picture, please give us details of all the previous tests and how many of those were in fact passed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Coming back to you, Karen, perhaps on that question about previous tests where the applicant passed.
Thank you, Chairman. Because those operations are conducted by Trading Standards and the police, that wouldn't necessarily be information that would be held by licensing. I don't know if Trading Standards are able to comment on any previous, or perhaps Thames Valley Police.
Is that the case? Can Kevin or Gary make any comments on that?
Hello, Chairman. Yeah, it's Kevin again here. I'm not actually within the database at the moment. It will probably take me some time to actually log on and find the full history. If we end up having a break within these proceedings at any point, I could go onto the system and then actually look at the entire history for BB Wines and see what other test purchase operations have occurred. But as I say, I'm not in the database at the moment. It'll take me a little while to do that. If you want me to do that, then if we have a break for 10 minutes or something, I could have a look and then give you the chapter and verse on the entire history.
Thank you. We'll proceed as we are at the moment, and then perhaps a little later in the proceedings we can have a break and then you can make those investigations. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask, is it proper to do this as we're introducing new evidence at the last moment?
Take advice from our legal team on that. So perhaps Neil, perhaps you could give me some guidance on that.
Chair, I was just considering that point, but certainly the points that Mr. Charalambidis has made are highly relevant to the case. So it's a matter that, in my view, does need to be cleared up. So hopefully Mr. Thompson can establish that, and we can move on from there. But I think it's one of those ones where we should get this cleared up during the course of the hearing. I see Mr. Charalambidis wants to make a point, so I'll just give way.
Sir, absolutely, thank you. I have a very specific question, which is how many previous tests have there been and how many have passed and failed? What I'm not asking about is all the other history, which we say there is none anyway, because that wouldn't be relevant. The Section 182 guidance makes clear that anything new can't be admitted, and if there is anything new, we should be giving it well in advance in order to clarify, in order to give me and my consultant enough time to comment. However, it is a question that comes from the applicant, and my position is, based on instructions, that there were tests in 2020, in 2019 and 2017, all of which were passed, and so that is a relevant factor. So whenever anyone has the opportunity to find that information out, we will be grateful for it. But our position is very clear that we have passed on at least as many occasions as there have been fails, and it's quite important for the responsible authorities to give you that full and clear picture. Secondly, just to return to the issue of the Reading Magistrates Court, the matter wasn't dealt with by fixed penalty notice because there was a concern around the appearance of the young person, who was a girl who we said had a great deal of makeup and looked a lot older than she actually was. And so the reason for the Magistrates Court hearing was, although that we pleaded guilty, for the magistrates to be able to look at the photographs themselves and to see how easy or difficult it was to identify her as a young person from sight only. And I'm instructed that the magistrates agreed, and the reason for the lower penalty was exactly with that. So when anyone can confirm the test purchases, I'd be very grateful. Thank you. And I have no other questions.
Thank you very much. So I'll come back to Kevin. How long will it take you just to get the numbers rather than any further details on this?
It will take me as long as it takes me to get into the system, Chairman, and then probably 10 minutes, hopefully. I can start having a look now.
Okay, if you would, that would be helpful. Thank you. We'll continue unless we need to fall on you, Kevin, and then obviously we'll have to make other arrangements. So comes to the committee now, the panel, to ask any questions of the applicant or his representatives. Do we have any questions from the panel? First of all, Chris?
No, thank you.
No. And Ian?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm okay at the moment.
You are? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Kevin Thompson is the applicant. Has he given his?
Yes. Sorry, you're right. Yeah. I've missed one. The licence holder will have the opportunity to put questions to the applicant. Does the licence holder wish to have?
Sir, I think where we are is that Kevin is very helpfully struggling with the computer system for us. And I think what we need to do is actually hear his application and then hear from the responsible authorities and then hear from myself before we get to questions, if I've understood your procedures on page 5 correctly.
Yeah. Okay. So you would rather wait now for the results of Kevin's investigations into numbers before we proceed any further?
So yes, and of course, Kevin, I'm sure is very helpful, but I don't think we should make him do multiple things and multiple computer systems at the same time.
Okay. Well, for that reason, then perhaps we'll give Kevin the opportunity to come up with those facts, and we'll have a break for, let's say, until 22:11. Everybody happy with that? Yes. Thank you. Okay. Right. Let's just have a break for a while, and I'll come back to you at 20:11. Hopefully with the answers from Kevin.
have the 2nd of January 2020, a test purchase, no sale, so it passed on that date. The 2nd of the 5th of 19, test purchase of alcohol, no sale, so that one passed. There is one record on the 7th of the 2nd of 19. Unfortunately, there's no detail on it. All it says is other test purchase, but there's nothing to indicate what that was about. We perhaps could assume, in all fairness, that that was another test purchase for underage sales, and it passed. Going back into 2018, we've got the 16th of the 11th of 18, a failure for alcohol that led to the prosecution, I believe. And then the last one I can find, the 12th of the 1st of 16, and that was a sale of cigarettes that resulted in a written warning. Those are the only ones I can find on the system. Hopefully everyone heard that.
Yes, thank you very much. So we have 3 no sales recorded and 3 failures with 1 written warning as well. Am I right? Over that period of time?
I would say it's 4 failures, Chairman. The first one was in 2016, but that was cigarettes. So yes. We have 3 failures of alcohol and three passes of alcohol from 2018 to present.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Sorry, Leo, did you wish to come back on that there?
So, no, thank you very much. That's exactly what our records show. And so I'm very grateful to the officer for confirming.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. So where are we? Right. The subcommittee can ask the applicant a clarification of any points. Do we have any points that we wish to ask the applicant or his representative? Sorry, Neil.
Sorry, Chair. I think Kevin actually needs to present his report.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll go back to Kevin. Sorry, Kevin, but back to you.
Could I ask a question, please, Chairman?
Yes.
That's been said. There was is it right? It was a pass on 2nd of January 2016. That was for cigarette sale. Is that correct?
There was a failure on the 12th of January of 2016. That was cigarettes.
Oh,
and that led to a written warning to the business.
Okay, I know cigarettes have nothing to do with the Licensing Act, but is that something? Do we need to take that into consideration, even though it's not alcohol related?
Sir, it would be relevant. However, what I can tell you is that there was a test purchase, and it was to check whether the cigarettes were lawfully imported and VAT had been paid. We asserted that they were lawfully imported, that they had been paid, and in fact, even though the council confiscated some of the cigarettes, my client visited the council offices with all his invoices to prove that they were lawful cigarettes. That was confirmed, albeit that the cigarettes were disposed of. So it was a warning at that stage, but once all the paperwork was all in order, it was confirmed that effectively it too was a pass, and that is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, did you wish to come back, please, to give your report?
Okay, so unfortunately, I don't have the report in front of me working at home, so I can't get it up on another screen. But hopefully, as Karen's already outlined, the application is in relation to the protection of children from harm and the sale of alcohol to minors. As we've heard, there had been a prosecution through the Magistrates' Court back in 2020. And then this year, Thames Valley Police actually asked ourselves in Trading Standards in the Public Protection Partnership to support them in relation to test purchase operations within Wokingham Town and the surrounding area. As we've heard, the first one was on the 29th of April 2021. I was engaged in that one personally, and I went into the shop following in the two volunteers. Two volunteers on that day were a young man, 16 years old, and he went in and he was able to buy alcohol from the shop. That then led to the fixed penalty notice issued by Thames Valley Police. The seller on that occasion was Mr. Kapoor, and he made no comments at all, didn't ask for identification or anything. It was purely a straightforward contractual matter where the alcohol was handed over, excuse me, and the money was passed across by the volunteer. Going back into the store, he was spoken to by the police, and he was issued with fixed penalty notice, and we took details of his license there and then. On the second occasion, the 9th of July 2021, again, BB Wines was on the list to be visited, and again, this was a police operation with ourselves in support. Although I was out that evening, although I'd been into the shop merely a month or so previously, my colleague Heather Parson, who was also on this call, was the officer who observed the sale. The young man, as a volunteer, was the same young man as we used on the 29th of April 2021, again 16 years old. He was with a female, she was just had her 17th birthday. My understanding was that when Ms. Parsons went back with the police, he said, "You caught me again." And this again was Mr. Kapoor selling alcohol to the same young man. And on this occasion, I understand when they made this sale, or when the children went in, Mr. Kapoor was on the phone and paid little attention to what was going on in the shop and who his customers were. Again, the police decided by way of fixed penalty notice against Mr. Kapoor. And at that point, because we'd had these two sales between the 29th of April and the 9th of July, I made inquiries with the licensing house to actually make an application for review of the license. My view being that Mr. Kapoor, perhaps at best, showed a little interest and concern with what was going on as he was on the telephone rather than observing his customers. At worst, it would show a disregard for the licensing objectives. And if I can add anything else to that, please say.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay. Can I ask the members of the panel if they have any questions of the applicant, of either Karen or Kevin at this stage?
No, thank you.
No. Ian?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I now ask the licence holder or representatives if they would like to put any questions to the applicant?
Sir, no, thank you. That was very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we come back to the representatives of the licence holder. Do you wish to make any further representations at this stage?
I will make representations, but we haven't heard from the other responsible authorities.
Okay. I can ask if the other responsible authorities wish to make a statement at this time. Is there anybody who would? From the police, Gary Clark.
Yeah, the only thing I would sort of like to say is that obviously these operations are intelligence led. It's not just by chance that the officers in question decided to do a test purchase on BB Wines. And that's really everything else is as stated in the application.
Thank you very much. Back to the representatives for the licence holder. Would you like to come back now?
So I don't have any questions for the police. So I think your mic might be on.
Right, sorry about that. Yes, it was on. Okay.
So thank you very much. So, no, I don't have any questions. So if you're happy for me to just respond to the review, I will do that now. So,
yep, go ahead.
So, sir, we welcome this review. We recognise that it's genuine to be concerned about sales to children. We are concerned about sales to children. My client himself is a father. He runs a store within the local community. He does not want the reputation of being a store that sells to children or is involved in anything that might undermine the child protection objective. And so a review is an opportunity to look at what has gone wrong and how it can be remedied. Sir, you and your colleagues are directed to look at paragraph 11.20 of the section 182 guidance, which makes it clear that it is expected that licensing authorities, you and your colleagues, should, as far as possible, seek to establish the cause or causes of concerns that the representations identify. Then the remedial action taken should generally be directed at these causes and should always be no more than an appropriate and proportionate response to address the causes of concerns that instigated the review. So we, for our part, have undertaken that process. One of those was really asking, well, what is the history of this store? And as you've heard, there have been successful test purchases on at least 3 occasions, and there have been 3 failures. You've seen that. You've also been given the example of the cigarette sales, which were initially found or considered to be at fault or in some error. But Mr. Kapoor proved by way of invoices and so on that they were correct and no further action was taken. And it's important to just pause there and think about that incident, because under paragraph 9.12 of the section 182 guidance, your responsible authorities are, of course, your experts in their respective fields, and you should listen to them. But the last line of the section 182 guidance in that paragraph makes it clear that it remains incumbent on all responsible authorities to ensure that their representations can withstand the scrutiny to which they would be subject at a hearing. So it's important, for example, that your trading standards give you full details about the burdens and benefits, about the concerns as well as the good practice that obtain in regards to a premises license holder. And for example, when we see on page 23 a request about concerns or any information in particular that shows they're not complying with the objectives, that you and your colleagues take a step back and say, well, hang on, that's not entirely correct, because a business that has been here for 10.5 years, that's been operated by Mr. Kapoor without a blemish, should not be tarred by a hunt to look for problems, and it's about sort of working together. So when we place it in that context, we can see that the premises has much going for it, including a level of diligence that lets it pass. So having seen, however, that we have had these 2 failures in 2021, we really did think about what are the problems here. The first thing that we did is we thought, well, okay, we might need refresher training. And so we attended Mr. Panchal's courses, who are nationally recognised courses and are used as a model nationally for training. And we completed the BII course and the APLH courses, both at level 2, which focus on underage sales and particular vulnerabilities. Those were both passed. One of the reasons that Mr. Panchal's courses are so successful is that they are taught in English, but they are also taught in second languages. So Mr. Kapoor has been on this course, both in terms of in English and in Punjabi. The second concern that we had was actually to do with our staffing. We noted that we were on the phone on one occasion. And what we have to say about that is this, that 2021 was a very difficult year. We, as an off-license, and about 70% of our stock is alcohol, so we're more of an off-license with a smaller selection of convenience items, had to deal with increased footfall because we are a small store that was allowed to stay open. We had to deal with the issue of masks, and also what we've identified as a real change in the area. A good number of stores have closed down. I think about 3 or 4 have closed down in the area. So in that respect, we're still one of the few stores still standing on the local high street as a result of the pandemic. But we've also noticed a change in the character of the area, particularly in the past few years. And we ourselves have had issues with children coming in, try to buy alcohol, and also picking up alcohol and running out of the store when they have been refused. As someone that works at the store full time, Mr. Kapoor recognises what the likely lads and lasses look like, and so he is able to deal with them. They are very different from the clean-cut sort of scouts and police cadets that are used in these types of test purchases. But that's not to make an excuse. It's just to point out that there is a difference between someone in the locality who knows the faces, knows the style, knows the attitude of children trying to purchase alcohol, and the very different body language and attitude of kids undercover, fulfilling their sort of, undercover spy fantasies, working for the police and trading standards, which may account for the issue. We also think that part of the problem, particularly because we were on the phone, is that we were just too busy. And even though it is a small store, it is a store that perhaps should not be single-manned. The normal person that works for us typically is a Mr. Banala. During COVID, he went to visit his parents who were suffering from COVID in India. He got stuck in India and wasn't able to return due to the exorbitant costs and also the quarantines that were in place. So we didn't have a trusted person in store with us. What we're going to propose by way of a solution to this, both for ourselves and also for you and your colleagues, sir, is to amend our licence conditions so that after 3:30, there are a minimum of 2 staff members on duty at all times. This will meet the concern around the store being busier. It will meet the concern about the change of circumstances in the area, particularly the concerns we've had in the past couple of years with kids coming in and trying it on effectively, and also ensure that we are far more fully focused so that there are essentially 4 sets of eyes on the floor. Mr. Banala has also undertaken training with Mr. Panchal. He will be a personal license holder. I think we're just waiting for the certificates and the license to be issued. And he has also taken the advanced BII and APLH training in that regard. So, sir, that's what we say is part of the fuller background in terms of what's happening in the area, in terms of what's happening with our store. We are not pleased that we've not passed these tests. We don't offer up these submissions as excuses, but we do offer them up as an exercise in really trying to work out what's gone wrong and how can we fix it. Our answer is to fix it by further training and an additional staff member. And so that's the measure that I commend to you in order to respond to this review. It's not, as Mr. Thompson says, that we have little interest or concern. That's not correct. We are very interested and are very concerned. And it's not that we have a total disregard, because we've passed previously, we've spent money on training. We're going to spend further money on having a permanent staff member, and we do take it very seriously by engaging the services of Mr. Panchal, who is a specialist licensing consultant, and indeed myself, who has some experience in licensing. So I commend this route to you as the most appropriate remedy. Sir, I'm here to answer any questions you have. I have Mr. Panchal and the premises license holder on WhatsApp who can answer questions through me, or indeed can speak directly to you as you require. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, I take it really that was your sort of virtual summing up, and now having had that opportunity, can I ask that all parties sorry. Sorry, I think I'm breaking up, am I? I'm not sure. We'll go on. The opportunity given all parties to present and sum up their case, but not to add any further facts. Now, I think you've just more or less summed up on your case. Can I ask now if the licensing authority, the applicants, would like to sum up? I noticed coming back in.
Chair, sorry to interrupt. I do have to advise that we go back to the procedure. I'm just checking exactly where that would be. Because I don't think that really was a summing up. That was Mr. Charalambide setting out his case. And there's an opportunity for, I'm just checking the position we're at now. Point 12, point 13 for the subcommittee and the applicant to put questions. And I'd suggest that we go back to that point.
Point 12. Right, the chairman invite the licence holder to make any
you've done that, and it's now 13 and 14 would be the next steps.
Okay. Right, okay, so we're going to ask the licence holder for any clarifications or any points. Does the subcommittee have any points that they wish to raise for clarification from the licence holder?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
May I ask what date did Mr. Kapoor go on the refresher training?
They were 2.5 weeks ago. Mr. Panchal will text me the exact dates, but they were done 2.5 weeks ago in Mr. Panchal's London office and training suite. And I'll ask Mr. Panchal to also text me the dates of Mr. Banala, so you've got them, but they were done.
Okay, so that's after the third offence.
Yes.
Did it not occur to you that this might be a good idea? And also, would it not have been a good idea to, for the two things to go on the training, or also to increase the number of people in the shop after the appearance in the Magistrates' Court? The offence took place on the 16th of November 2018. And I know you said it's been busy this year because of other shops dropping out, but that's nearly 3 years ago. Did it not occur to you that training was needed, and perhaps you needed to get more people to run the shop?
So Mr. Panchal provides an advisory service. So Mr. Kapoor has been very much keeps in touch. Mr. Panchal provides a training pack and due diligence and so on, which our clients have. After the Magistrates' Court appearance in Reading, of course, matters were reviewed, and what we know is that there were subsequent passes in the subsequent years, so things were definitely working. We certainly do have part-time staff, but we have them on the basis of shifts. So 2021 was particularly difficult because our main staff member that we work with, Mr. Banala, was away and got stuck away because of COVID. What I'm suggesting today is a condition. Because the review has arisen now, we are aware that we're busier. There are 4 off licences that have shut in the town centre. So we imagine that even as COVID settles down, I'm not going to use that horrible phrase I keep hearing where now that COVID is over, because I'm unfortunately too pessimistic for that. But given that the economic circumstances in the town centre have closed, it does mean that we are one of, of the 5 that were there, we're the only one that remains open. So we are going to be busier. So it is very important to have a permanent member of staff there with us. So a condition that requires us to have 2 staff members from 3 o'clock. And I've picked 3 o'clock because it means that we're there for when the schools close, but we're also there for the evening after work when there's a rush and until closing. So it creates that condition, and it's not just about responding to the review, but it's responding to the change in circumstances that we're really that much more aware of now, which is why I suggest that as a condition.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
Thank you. Okay. There's no
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask for clarification on the time from which the extra member of staff would be present? I believe in the main presentation, Mr. Karalambidis said 3:30, and in the remarks just to Councillor Bowering, he actually said from 3 o'clock.
Sorry, I did say that. I was working it out on the basis that schools closed at 3:30, and in my notes I put down 3 to make sure that there was someone in place in order to be there when when he's there. So it's absolutely, it's 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? If not, in that case, we'll go on to item 14. The members of the licensing team have the opportunity to ask the licence holder any questions.
I think we just did that.
No, the licensing team. The applicant will have the opportunity to put questions to the licence holder. So I'm asking Karen, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I did just have one question, please. Would it be possible perhaps for those training records to be provided to licensing so that we have a record of which staff members have been trained and when? I also note there was also a gentleman called Sammy Mia who we've come across at the shop. Has he also undergone the same training?
Absolutely, Karen. I can get the certificate sent to you from Mr. Panchal. And in fact, apologies, because he'd asked me whether I wanted copies. And I said, no, it's fine. Don't send me copies. So I would have been able to do that myself. So we can get that across. I don't know about Sammy Mia, but what I can do is say that any member of staff, oh, look, my lovely assistant is holding them up on the screen. Thank you very much, Mr. Panchal. So that's Mr. Banala, and we'll email you PDF copies of all the training that we've done with the dates, and we will also provide you training records of anyone that works for us, so you'll know if they've got a personal license, if they don't, and whether they've done any refresher training. And Mr. Panchal can also provide an outline of what the internal training is for the premises, so you can see that.
Good, because yeah, I was going to go on to say that would there then be a programme of refresher training? How often would that be? And will there be confirmation of that as well?
So Mr. Panchal provides a refresher training, so they can either do it internally or they can go to his premises, and that refresher training is left as an internal matter, depending on how often. So I know one of the problems that some of these smaller convenience stores have is that the churn of staff, which is why we're going to invest in Mr. Banala, but he's been working there for some time. But we can undertake to do that every time there's a new member of staff, and then provide refresher training every 6 months. And so we can keep a record of that. That will be in the store, and we can send it to you.
Thank you. That answers the question. Thank you.
Yes, Kevin Thompson, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And if I overstepped the mark with this, I do apologise, and I'm sure people will tell me. It was really some observations, and then perhaps to get some comment on those observations, if that's okay. I note that on the 3 test purchase failures that we've spoken about, one that led to the hearing at Reading Magistrates, and then the last 2 in 2021, on each occasion, Mr. Kapoor was the seller. Was the actual person who did the physical sale. On the first occasion in 2018, he was on the telephone. On the third occasion, in July of 2021, he was on the telephone. And of course, I do note that Mr. Kapoor is the DPS for the store, a personal license holder, and therefore I would think, and I could be wrong in this, that he would have gone through adequate training to achieve those license holders before he's actually carried on. It's really my observations, as I say, being that it's Mr. Kapoor personally who has made these sales, the three that we're talking about specifically. On 2 occasions, he's on the telephone, and I would have thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, that his training going through the DPS and the personal license holder, he would have been made aware of the requirements really for sort of observation and checking people in that sense. And I don't know if that's something that his representatives can comment on my observations on that.
So yes, with Reading he was on the phone, and also most recently he was on the phone. It was a family emergency on the first occasion, and on this occasion he was watching a wedding live streamed in Germany that he couldn't go to because he had no staff. He completely accepts that he should not be on the phone. He's recognised that. It was part of the review that he's had with Mr. Panchal in looking at his records. It's quite clear that when he is on the ball, he passes these tests. For example, with the cigarettes, he's able to produce his invoices. When I've asked him for the letters, for example, in respect of the passes of the test purchases, he is able to give them to me. He has made the decision to offer up this condition to the licensing authority, knowing full well that it will mean an impact on his bottom line, because he will have to pay someone in order to comply with that condition to be on the store with him at those times. So he sees it as trying to engage in a personal life and also run the store, and he can't just do that on his own because these mistakes happen. So it's his acknowledgement of that which has led him to offer this condition to have someone alongside him and to pay to have someone alongside him. So he does take it very seriously. And also just on an earlier observation about Sami Mia, Mr. Mia was on site helping out on a very casual basis while Mr. Banala was away. I hope that's answered those observations, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
There's no other points from the licensing team? Yes.
Chair, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Chair, can I just ask just 3 questions that might help clarification on the staff?
Yeah, carry on.
All right. It's all to Mr. Charalambidis. Mr. Charalambidis, just 3 questions. I think you've cleared up the first one. The staff have already been trained. Who are they again, please?
So it's the premises license holder and Mr. Banala. Right. So they are going to be effectively the full-time front of house staff. And then in the event that we have any temporary staff that comes in, we will train them internally, and if they become more permanent, we'll get them trained up with Mr. Panchal and provide certificates for you.
Okay, and is it the intention then, with the condition that you've offered, that one of those trained members of staff will be one of the 2 present in the shop?
That's very much the intention, yes. But I've not said that in the condition, because someone might go to the cash and carry or have an emergency. So in that case, what Mr. Kapoor will have to do is make sure that there is a second person at the store to make sure that after 3 o'clock there is someone there until closing with him. So effectively there'll be 2 people. But the 2 people that, if you want to look at it as the DPS, premises license holder and manager, that will have the full responsibility are going to be Mr. Kapoor and Mr. Banala, and things will be done under them and under their supervision.
Okay, so it is possible that the 2 people under the condition will not be trained?
It is possible, but the reality is these are the 2 main people.
Yeah.
And when we have people coming in, Mr. Kapoor knows that getting Mr. Panchal in and getting me in to respond to things like this is really quite expensive.
Yeah.
So what he really should be doing is look, as I've said to him quite frankly, and I'm happy to do so, through here, is just make sure that people who come in are appropriately responsible, because the consequences of not doing so are really quite grave.
So a condition saying that one of the two has to be someone who's been trained would be too onerous for you at the moment?
I think it's just the reflection of what is good practice. So a condition that says someone who's been trained to understand the importance of underage sales, and that's challenge, in the store. That effectively means our Challenge 25 system, making sure that there is the EPOS till system, what are the right forms of ID, and challenging people, is quite clear, and that's in the manual that Mr. Panchal prepares for people, and that should be available for them. So I don't believe it is that onerous. That's effectively the key points on any training.
So what I'm getting at is, if the committee were to decide to impose a condition, but along the lines that you've suggested, but then to also add that one of those two people must be someone who has done Mr. Panchal's training, is that a condition that your client could live with, or is that going a little bit too far?
I think if it's a condition of Mr. Panchal's training because it comes at cost, that I think would be far. But so that they would be appropriately trained, because that can be done internally with the guidance that I've just gone through.
Yeah.
Just plugging in so I don't run out of juice.
Sure.
The joys of Zoom and working from home. Then I think that would be appropriate, because Mr. Panchal's guidance notes that he has given to the store also include cigarettes, lighter fluids, the ongoing training around sort of knives and so on. That is constantly updated. So having them trained vis-a-vis the guidance that obtains within the store, I don't believe would be onerous, and that would be acceptable to us.
Okay, so a condition saying that one of those two members of staff would be appropriately trained would be okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, fine. The next two questions just allude to the circumstances that led to this. You mentioned that Mr. Kapoor was a lot wiser to if you like, the usual suspects, kids coming in who have been trying to buy alcohol, take alcohol. Did he report any of that to the responsible authorities?
So there are no official reports, because that's a question I also asked him. He has talked about it with the kind of local officers as he sees them on the street. And I've said to him he needs to keep records and actually tell people, because on the most recent occasion, for example, one of his customers ran out and chased the kid and said, "Oi, bring it back." So I said to him, it'd been really useful for me to have a record so I can say on this date, this happened, and it was in his record book and it was in his log books. So I have suggested to him that he should be recording those. The difficulty is that he says to me, "I know what people look like. I know what kids look like who are trying it on to see if I'll sell them cigarettes or if I'll sell them alcohol." And it just becomes part of your regular practice in terms of being in the store. So unlike us lawyers who like to record these things, the storekeeper who would then have to sit back and say, "Oh, it's those kids again," making a note of it, isn't habituated with that. And I've already advised him that he ought to be thinking about that, as has Mr. Panchal.
Yeah, okay, because the reason for me asking that question, anticipating the subcommittee may take a view that his job is to promote the licensing objectives, and that, and some engagement with the authorities to assist them would help. Okay, thanks. And the last question, just going back to the facts, and this is in Mr. Thompson's report. Now, it's in the agenda at page 15 on the PDF of the agenda report, Mr. Thompson's report. And it's just this comment that's recorded after I think it's the second test purchase. Mr. Kapoor is reported saying, "Oh, you caught me again." Is it his case? Does he accept that you said that?
I understand he does accept. I'm just going to double check with him, but yes, he did say that. And that's not from a kind of, "Oh no, you caught me again" in the kind of style of Looney Tunes. It's more, "Oh no, I can't believe this has happened." And that's focused his attention, because he has passed tests before. He doesn't want to have the kind of reputation that we all know what those convenience stores are like in our local areas, that you just know them without going in, especially those of us that work in licensing. That's the dodgy one. I'll see that being removed soon. They have a look about them, and that's not what Mr. Kapoor is trying to achieve here, which is why he's gone for the training, additional staff members and so on, because he doesn't want to be caught. And it's not a question of him being caught out. It's more a question of him having highlighted that this is a bigger problem that he needs to address.
I raise that just because reading it could be taken as a flippant remark that.
It was not at all flippant, and his response today and how he has invested in responding shows that he's not a flippant man and doesn't take this in any flippant way at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. So that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from the applicants to the licence holder or his representatives? No. Okay, we move on to item 15, and I invite anybody, responsible authorities or any persons who've made representations to speak now, to ask questions. Anybody have anything further to add? No. If I can just ask one question, it might seem a rather strange question, but I'm looking at the store layout. And asking where in the store, this is on page 31, alcohol and spirits are displayed. And I asked that question because I noticed that the service counter is at the far end of the store. Would it be possible for some person to have access to alcohol and leave the store with it without actually going to the service counter?
Well, sir, that is a good question, because that's why I'd asked about the how much of the store. And as you can see, this is predominantly alcohol, it's about 70%, and the position of the counter at the end allows a clear sight to the front door, but and that's how it's currently organised. I don't believe there's any plans to amend the counter. I suspect what you're thinking is that it's either to the left or to the right-hand side of the front door, in order to ensure that if people are taking things off the shelves, particularly kids, and running out, it would be a much better position. That has been canvassed, and I think your voice, perhaps added to mine, might be some consideration for Mr. Kapoor to think about moving the service counter either to the left or to the right of the door, and that would be a really good idea in terms of further due diligence. I would probably, though I leave it for discussion with your legal advisor, I would probably stray away from suggesting that as a condition, but I do think it would make a very useful advisory observation to Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay. Are there any other points? Sorry, yes, come back to you, Neil.
Chair, just a quick question, back to Mr. Charalambidis. Why would you stray away from it being a condition?
It involves quite a high degree of cost. So it involves layout, changing CCTV, moving cameras around, and in the review guidance where it talks about the economic impact of decisions, I think we need to think about them. And I'm particularly mindful of economic impact decisions as we are recovering from the first round of COVID. That's why I would be careful, particularly where the responsible authorities haven't made comment on that, and I don't know the full extent of the concern or the problem. That's why.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any other points that anybody wishes to make at this stage? Okay, we move on to item 16. Subcommittee may ask any responsible authorities or any other questions and points of clarification. Are there any at all at this stage? No, it doesn't appear to be. Okay, first of all, the applicant and the licence holder shall have the opportunity to put questions to those who have made representations. So are there any questions that anybody, either the applicant or the licence holder, wish to make at this stage?
I have no further questions, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for the licensing team, no further questions? No, sorry. Karen.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one point to make on what we've just been talking about. If there were to be a layout change, obviously just to state the obvious that would need to be done by way of minor variation at minimum, or full variation if there were any other changes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we move on to item 18 on the agenda. Opportunity for all parties to present to sum up their case. But at this point, can I make it quite clear they are not to add any new facts? So first of all, can I ask if the applicant would like to sum up at this stage, if they have anything further to add?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I would have nothing further to add. They're already discussed.
Okay. Nobody else. Thank you very much. And for the licence holder, do you wish to sum up or add anything? Well, sorry, to sum up, not to add.
Add anything? No, sir. Thank you. I think it's been a very useful discussion. It's the very type of discussion that Licensing Act should have, and it's really about understanding the problem and finding a solution. I'm very grateful for the information that's all been received by the Licensing Trading Standards Licensing Authority and Police. We have suggested a solution, which is by way of additional conditions, as I've set out. Those haven't been criticised, they have been examined, and in those circumstances, I would urge you to adopt those amended conditions by way of response to this review. I have nothing further to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will just now ask the subcommittee, the panel, if they have any further questions of either the applicant or the licensing authority.
No, thank you, Chairman.
No.
No, Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we get to the point now where we ask all members of the group to leave, apart from the subcommittee and support staff of Wokingham Council, to leave the hearing. The subcommittee now will determine the application, and the decision will be notified in writing within 5 working days to all parties after the subcommittee has reached its decision. Can I thank everybody for their attendance and their contributions to today's hearing, and wish everybody who's leaving the meeting a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you.